Sarah Boone letter, hand delivered on July 21st, 2023. And revisions were made to this on July 20th. Original not uploaded to date. So she's complaining that it's not public. At the same time, she complains that the public knows too much. Second attempt to make public, like everything else in my case, including all my other letters. Freedom of speech, mine. Yes, apparently the only one allowed to have freedom of speech is her. The rest of us, not so much. All for your review, critique, judgment, understanding. Try it. Look, we've tried. We've been trying. Why don't you just tell us the truth? It's not for our review, critique, judgment. It isn't. She doesn't want that unless we come to the conclusion she wants us to come to. That's been established. We already know this about her. Clarify, to become or make clearer. Clarity, clearness. Per the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, because none of us know what any of that means. Where do I even start? Through the officer inmate grapevine and a letter I received from my fan mail, and usually the only way I find anything out regarding my case, since there is no communication from my current attorney. Now 10 weeks more of complete silence, and yes, my sixth attorney, which I will clarify momentarily. She's going to clarify the attorney, apparently. I was made aware my last letter was featured on the news locally, realistically, meaning globally. No, the local news does not mean the global news. Does not mean it's all over the world, in spite of how famous you want to be. Isn't she famous enough? What's interesting here is not so much her usual complaints, it's the detail. She's giving details here that we actually don't need. And so there's a reason why. So she's telling us through the officer inmate grapevine and a letter I received from my fan mail, she wants us to know that. And I suspect that the reason is really about how she wants the public to view her as opposed to anything else. I find it interesting. Her letter's featured on the news. That should make her happy, right? I mean, she's chomping at the bit to make sure that what she says is public. She even asked why her letter wasn't uploaded and complained about one of them being uploaded incorrectly. Apparently, my very legitimate, lawful, real questions, again with the convincing language or language designed to convince, that lets me know that she underlines and capitalizes people aren't buying it, that people aren't believing that she really does have real, actual questions that are legitimate. Certainly lawful. I mean, you can ask any question you want. It's lawful. Questions and concerns I asked and am still caused a stir on top of the already engulfing whirlpool my case has become and made out to look like. What is it that it's supposed to look like? What other, I mean, we all saw the video. We saw the interrogation. What is it supposed to look like? I mean, she's not giving us an alternative narrative. Hence my previous questions from said letter. I am trying to protect and maintain my truth. I'm not going to get into a big thing about this. There's a difference between my truth and the truth, which no one knows because you're not telling it. Since no one else will, however I can, and keep some of the illicit ugliness at bay. Is the mismanagement? I guess it's everything, because she says it's everything. There's lots ugly here, but what's illicit? What is she referring to? She doesn't say. I mean, sometimes she's specific about her complaints. There are other times that she throws around these emotionally loaded words. Mismanagement, illicit. What is illicit? I think she's just throwing words around. She's repeating. I don't like the level of communication because we know there isn't none. It's impossible for there to have been no communication. She knew that she had a court date. She knew what was going to happen. She had to know because she would have had to agree. This is just to throw around complaints and say everybody's awful and she's the victim. Why wasn't I included? What? At all. She was at court. Why wasn't I asked prior to being highlighted so I would know what was said? Oh, Sarah wants to be on the news. so I would know what was said or asked or criticized. Don't criticize her. So I could rightly defend myself. What was so newsworthy? You can't have it both ways here, honey. You want this to be public. You want people to see this letter and your previous letters. So why then would you complain when it's given a bigger platform? When it becomes more public, more of the public gets to see it. What's the problem? Oh, the problem is that you weren't actually on the news as well. Sarah wants to be on the news. By not including me is unfair and adds to the assumptions of what everyone wants me to end up being and thinks I am. So she should get to be on the news to explain her letters that she wrote, that she put out for the public's view, or that's unfair. Really? So the translation here is, I wrote a letter. I want the public to see it, because she's not actually complaining that it was on the news. She's complaining that she wasn't on there too to explain it. So the translation is writing a letter for the public to view, but I want to also control how that letter is read, how that letter is perceived, how the letter is interpreted, what comments are made about the letter. I want to control that. The assumptions of what everyone wants me to end up being and thinks I am. She thinks that everyone wants her to be convicted, to be finally labeled murderer. That's what she's afraid of. I think the best thing would be a fair trial. And then if a jury convicts her, well, if the slide fits. This is wrong and also adds to the prejudgment of my case. Wait a minute. What adds to the prejudgment? She's saying putting her letter on the news without putting her on the news, including her on the news, adds to the prejudgment of her case. The case is not decided in the court of public opinion, no matter how much anybody wants that. It doesn't matter what I think or what you think or what anyone else thinks. It matters what the jury thinks after a trial. If she wants to be tried in the court of public opinion, and I don't think that's a good idea, but if she did, and she wants to therefore be included and so she can control the narrative, well, then the other side should get to talk too, right? All of the idiotic theories, empty opinions, false accusations is all the ignorant world knows from all the pertinent private case details available to everyone except me, the defendant in my case. Wait a minute. She's saying, everybody out there talking about me, your theories are idiotic, your opinions are empty, you're wrong, it's all wrong. But she's attaching this with all the ignorant world knows. So they're making all these false accusations and wrong-headed opinions because they're ignorant. But the world has all the pertinent private case details available. And she doesn't have those details available. That's backwards. The world is ignorant, yet they have all the details that even she doesn't have. She's just throwing around insult. She's just throwing around nasty words. What is it that she thinks everyone has that she doesn't? Because I'll tell you right now, she knows more than the rest of us about what there is. So what is it that she thinks we all know that she doesn't? And how is it that she can hear about all her opinions and everything that's being said and done, and yet doesn't know what anybody's basing it on because she hasn't seen the information? Like, this is nonsense. How can I defend myself? I can't. So everything gets meaner, more evil, corrupt, and out of control. This corruption allegation that she's thrown around, it's really ticking me off. She has alleged before corruption on the part of the judge. Does anybody believe that? What is there that's so fantastic that he's just going to throw away his life and his career and his reputation and everything else? For Sarah Boone? Come on. You know what it is? This is, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to call you a bad name. I am going to make an accusation. If you don't perceive things the way she wants, well, then you must be ignorant, even though you have all the facts and she doesn't, apparently, according to her. I believe this is what a trial is for, right? No, actually, no, that's not what a trial is for. The world is supposed to learn everything about my case during the trial, right? Actually, no. The trial is to make a determination based on the evidence as to the defendant's guilt or innocence. It's actually there to protect her. It's not about public opinion. And the world is supposed to learn everything? No. I mean, we're going to learn more during the trial. There are things we haven't seen that are going to be very interesting, like the ME's report. So, no, this is not justice or a system, right? All fairness has been completely removed, right? I think maybe fairness for Mr. Torres's family may have been, because they have been waiting a long time. The delays have been on the defendant's side. And this latest delay was her choice. This latest delay is because of a relatively new defense that she has come up with. No, all fairness has not been removed. This is like a kid, you give him a cookie and he wants another cookie and he can't have it. He wails that it's not fair. So were any of my questions answered? Yes, they were. You just didn't like the answers. Was anything at all clarified regarding evaluations, amendment violations? Yes, it was clarified. Case sensitivity protection, even know what that means, because the last time she said safety protection. Suppression. What does she want suppressed? And on what legal grounds does she want it suppressed? She has been answered. Her rights are not being violated. And if she really thinks they are, she has remedy. She can take action, and she isn't. And the other stuff, she was told, look, we've given you what you're entitled to, and that's it. What's the video hit count reach now? My last letter, it was over 3 million. The video hit count and how many views? Let's not forget that video was of a man begging for his life. That's the video. That's this thing that she thinks is, it's garnering money and the judge has somehow got a cut. That video. Mr. Torres has become just sort of like a prop. Wow. How much does that shareable income make for everyone? How about this? How many people watched that video and cringed or cried or had to look away, couldn't watch, knowing what happened in the end? Let's talk about viewing that video for those family members and friends of Mr. Torres who saw the video. How are they doing? What about the human part of this? The fact that there was a human being dying there. I mean, there's a reason why I won't post the video on my channel. To her, it's a prop and income and a tool with which to make an accusation against the judge. This is pretty bad. This is pretty callous. Did anyone locate my attorney or discovery? I mean, the sarcasm is obvious. And again, with the discovery, what is it that she claims to be missing? Everything, everyone, everywhere in the world knows, has seen, or listened to all of my discovery. So she does know that all of her discovery is out there, according to her, like it's all available. And the whole world has listened to it, and somehow she knows that, but she hasn't seen it. So she knows what it is that she hasn't seen. What is it? Be specific, Sarah. What specific piece of information from your discovery have you not seen that everybody else has seen? Label it, name it, say it. What is it? Or again, are you just throwing around words? And they're extreme. It's all, everyone, everywhere, always. It's that kind of sort of extreme language, right? Everybody else is bad. And I'm the victim and I'm in the dark. You know what? She knows what went down. She was there. She's not in the dark. In the meantime, here's a corner piece to my convoluted puzzle. Okay. The puzzle is convoluted because she's made it a puzzle and she's made it convoluted. The case is actually pretty straightforward. The defense of battered spouse throws some complication into it, but it's not that extremely complicated. All are wondering when it will finally be put together to see what the real picture is. This is like a movie trailer, and also a huge disentanglement of only an inkling of some of the misunderstandings and ignorance swirling about my case. Before you try wearing my slides, know where they've been. I don't think I want to know where her slides have been. Do you? My attorneys. 6. When, and as I've said numerous times in my previous letters, why, not by choice, I am on a 6th attorney, here is some clarity. So everyone can finally have some understanding why my slides are so worn, but most definitely walkable still. She's got to throw that in about being walkable, because that perception of the public is so important to her. Attorney 1, private, February 2020 to May 2022. Oh, she had him for 2 years. This attorney sold me the world. Yeah, sometimes you do that. Promised exoneration and supplied an overabundance of other continuous false hopes, so I would accept his offer to become my attorney. He had no idea what my case was going to be or was really about. I think maybe what he didn't know wasn't so much what the case was about. I think maybe he didn't know what she was about. Then he deserted me, his client, naive and new, 2 weeks before my first scheduled trial. That would be brutal, actually. That would be pretty horrible to be waiting and have that happen. Due to irreconcilable differences, meaning I was not persuaded enough to agree with what he wanted me to say or do, and was not what happened. There was no trust. I think she does have a trust problem. I could be wrong, but I think that she has a trust problem in general. I think she doesn't trust anybody. There was no strategy. And if there was, I was never included on it. There's a part of me that wants to say, oh, here we go. But I've heard this before. Clients will call their lawyer and say, okay, what's the strategy? And the case doesn't require some strategy. It's just, we're going to argue the facts and the law. That's it. Sometimes there's a strategy for certain elements. I mean, there are certain cases where there's an overall strategy, but a lot of the times there is no strategy. There's just, this is the evidence. We argue the facts and we argue the law. That's it. Sometimes clients, they get worked up. What do you mean there's no strategy? What do you mean that's all you're going to do? Just argue the facts, right? Argue over the evidence, argue the law. What do you mean? If there was, I was never included in on it, or an innumerable amount of other case defining details and questions, always questions, left unanswered before going to trial. Oh boy, if she has to have all of her questions answered before going to trial, she's never going to trial, because the questions will never be answered to her satisfaction. Do you notice something familiar here? The allegation that there's this lack of communication. He didn't answer my questions. He's not really being honest, according to her. All these case-defining details, like time-sensitive matters. Is she talking about Bankowitz here? No. She's talking about her first attorney. So I'm just going to point out, we're seeing a pattern of behavior. If she had never had a problem with anyone else and suddenly is having a problem with Bankowitz, you'd be inclined to believe her. We're seeing other elements, the patterns of behavior that she has. The complaining, the I have a right to free speech, but don't you criticize me incorrectly. I need to be included. Why don't I know everything? Why do you know something and I don't know the thing? She needs all the information, and she needs to control all the information. And no matter how much you give her, it's never going to be enough. I think what she really wants is reassurance. and nobody can give her an absolute. The prosecution has a really strong case. And every time she writes a new letter and just keeps talking, it's never going to be good for her. There's a reason, they say you have the right to remain silent. Everything she says is a potential gift to the prosecution. I felt he was sabotaging my case. What? And setting me up for failure. Why on earth would a lawyer sabotage his own case? Why? There's really distorted thinking due to his micro amount of experience, which I found out after the fact and was not disclosed prior to my acceptance of his representation in my macro-sized case. Oh my word, there's a bit to unpack here. If he's setting her up for failure and sabotaging her case, if that's due to his lack of experience, well, then he's not setting her up for failure and he's not sabotaging, because it requires some intention. And we don't know if this alleged lack of experience, if that's true or not. It's not a complicated case. So even if he was a baby lawyer could do this one. So her case is not macro-sized. The chaos and the attention is macro-sized. She brings chaos with her wherever she goes. Here's the other thing that's kind of jumping out at me. Based on this and based on the way she spoke about Mr. Torres and the way she interacted with her ex-husband, and I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just thinking. I think she has a need-hate relationship with men. I think she hates them and she needs them. I could be off base. I'm seeing borderline here. Nonetheless, when we did meet, listen to the language. Same with, she talked about Bankowitz. Well, when we finally do talk, so we didn't talk enough, and when we do talk, it's not good enough. So she's doing this here too. So this is a pattern of behavior. This predates Bankowitz. When we did meet to discuss my case, and I asked for updates about any progress, he would start talking to me about his client in Colombia, his clown of a sister-in-law, his nephew going to water parks, trips he's taken, his regrets, where he bought his gold sneakers, and many other unrelated, unimportant, time-consuming stories. I mean, on the one hand, you think, well, look, I'm sitting in jail. I don't want to hear about your sneakers or your trip or whatever. On the other hand, it sounds like he's trying to be nice to her. He's trying to chat with her and treat her like a human being. At least he's obviously spending time with her. I mean, she's complaining that it consumed time. All the while I'm trying to figure out what's going on and why he's not answering any of my questions. This is the same complaint that she made about Bankowitz, that she made about the judge. You're not answering my questions. But she is getting answers to her questions. And sometimes the answer is no. You're not getting what you want. And she doesn't like that. Or sometimes the answer is, look, this is just how it goes, right? This is the way it works. And she doesn't like that. Or the answer is, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's the same pattern of behavior, same kind of question. What's going on? Well, I suspect she knew what was going on. She just didn't like it. He answered her questions, or he didn't have an answer, and she didn't like it. Nothing was ever completed or accomplished. How can it be that nothing was completed or accomplished? They got all the way up to 2 weeks before trial. Nothing was communicated. What is she wanting communicated here? This problem with her previous lawyer, it's the same problem with Bankowitz and Wooten. The problem lies with the client, right? I think when she says communicated, she wants that reassurance and nobody can give it to her. And she wants control and she can't have it. She can't control the court. It doesn't matter what happens. She's not going to be happy. Building 1,000 fires, waiting and needing to be put out before making another to be left ablaze, says the woman throwing matches into the barn. I was always ignoring same allegations against her current lawyers. And in the dark, conjuring the dreadful perpetual question mark looming still over my head. She does want reassurance. In the dark, no one has a crystal ball. So she's not getting that. Conjuring, not I'm living with a question mark over my head. Conjuring. Can you get that picture in your head? I think she's ruminating. I think she's super anxious, understandably, over how this is all going to turn out. And she conjures the question mark, the perpetual question mark over her head. It is dreadful. It really is a stressful, awful thing to have your future in the hands of other people. So much I prepared an 8-page packet for Judge Wayne C. Wooten to provide during both court dates, defending myself against my attorney's untrue, unresearched withdrawals. No one asked me nor permitted to speak my truth. Oh man. To help him and the court understand my real concerns, along with all the carryover since day one. She's repeating herself, and people are saying no. And she thinks, well, then you must not understand. If you just see it my way, then everything will be fine. If you just do it my way, everything will be fine. If a lawyer works 2 years on a file and then ditches it just before trial due to irreconcilable differences, he has to explain himself to the court. They don't just do that willy-nilly, and the court doesn't just allow that willy-nilly. It's just like with Banquet. She said, well, why didn't you just come to me? People tell her things, whether it's the police, whether it's lawyers, whoever it is. The judge tells her something, she doesn't like it, so she keeps haranguing and trying to work around it. At some point, the person the person actually trying to communicate is going to say, forget it. When you talk to somebody who twists what you say or lies about you or weaponizes things against you or manipulates or creates chaos, why would you keep talking? She should have been in sales. She just won't listen to whatever objection. She'll find her way around it. Just like she was trying to get in to get her smokes, even after she was told no. Remember that at the scene? She's told no, so now she's looking around trying to figure out how to go get her smokes, and then she was told no. I know you can't go in there, and so she walks behind the officer and tries to go in. She wants what she wants, and that's that. I was trying to avoid going through any of this again going forward. It had already been 2.3 years. I wanted the judge to include me and know I have a side also in everything. Plus, I knew Judge Wooten would be appointing my next attorney in hopes he would listen and appoint a more suitable, experienced one accordingly, to save time for everyone to progressively move forward. He must have been throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. So, the judge is corrupt, and now he's an idiot, apparently, because, wow. This attorney, number one, is untrustworthy, unreliable, unprofessional, with poor leadership skills, and is extremely unorganized. He was unable to perform ethically and as an adult. Jeez. Ignoring his client, misleading and deceiving. Wow. This lawyer is some kind of evil, horrible. This lawyer sounds worse than Banquet. Banquet just gave her a number that didn't work, apparently. He didn't even respect me enough to speak with before his withdrawal. We've been through this. To try and remedy, no, because you won't accept a remedy. At some point, people say, okay, that's enough. Or figure anything out to stop. I was totally blindsided. She said these exact same words about Banquets. So she's saying this about her first lawyer. Totally blindsided. Because of the magnitude of his ineptness. Wow. Extreme language. Magnitude of his ineptness. And dereliction of duty. That's a serious accusation there. As a result, withdrawing from my case at the 11th hour after taking over 2 years with nothing I knew of but disappointment. I could have reported him to the Florida bar for legal malpractice. Wow. That's a serious statement. Legal malpractice and unethical and all these things that she said. Well, if she could have reported him to the Florida bar, why didn't she? She could have protected other people. And this also tells me that she knows of a channel aside from the court of public opinion that she is putting her information out into. She knows of another avenue and doesn't take it. Because you see, if she actually did something officially, she would have to prove it. She would have to prove that what she says is true, and I don't think she can. It's easier just to throw around accusations, use emotionally loaded words. When your brain becomes really sort of engaged emotionally around an issue, it gets difficult to start thinking rationally. When somebody hooks into you emotionally, it's easier for them to manipulate you. This is a thing that predators do. They hook into your emotion and then start pulling strings. It looks to me like this is something she's done through her life, or at least throughout somewhat of her adult life. She's prolific with the emotional or the charged words here, and unsubstantiated allegations and details that support her while omitting details that would show that she's not telling the truth, like she's been doing all along. Exhaustion 1. I'm sorry, I don't believe her. She has the energy to write these endless letters and endlessly complain. I'm also still waiting on him to release all of my case files and documents obtained and accrued during his representation, including well over 100 pages of my handwritten notes and information, which is irreplaceable. 100 pages of handwritten notes. Yeah, that would be brutal if that was lost. If this is so important, though, and this lawyer who is so horrible, malpractice, unethical, all those things, and he has information, 100 pages of irreplaceable handwritten notes, and she's not doing anything about that? Why is that? So she's writing to the public to say this instead of actually doing something about it, right? She wants you to be outraged. She doesn't actually want to help herself. Not in the way that most of us would think of, right? He's still not helping. Him no longer being my attorney was not my choice. It was a consequence. That's what that's called, consequence. She seems to not know the difference between choice and consequence. That's the consequence. Unintentional. But the consequence was what it was. When you behave like all of this, there's a consequence. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you don't like it. If I jump off the roof, I'm going to break both my legs. If I'm lucky, that's the consequence. It's not my choice to break my legs, but it's the consequence. This is pretty basic stuff. There's a part of me that says I don't understand why she doesn't understand this. But I think she, on some level anyway, does understand, and she doesn't like it. So whatever she doesn't like, well, then that's just not reality. Let me ask this. So him no longer being my attorney was not my choice. So she wanted him to continue to be her attorney. But he's unethical, legal malpractice, he's untrustworthy, misleading, disorganized, and I can't remember all the other things that she said, didn't do anything, all of that. But she still wants him to be her lawyer? Is that true? Or is she saying she is the perpetual victim? He's bad. He has to be all bad. It's not even like she says, he was doing a good job and I'm really upset. No, he's horrible. And he left me. And that, I think, is what's made her so angry, is the abandonment. He left me. I didn't choose that. How dare he? I still am wondering if she's borderline, if she's ever been diagnosed. Attorney 234, public defenders appointed by judge, May to June of 2022. So she went through 3 lawyers in 1 month. Judge Wayne C. Wooten and court repeatedly appointed me public defenders 3 without any research or care. And after I continuously explained to each and tried to the judge court, they could not represent me due to the representations of the decedent. Wow. I know that her point is that they, these other attorneys had a conflict of interest. I'm getting that that's the point. But that she refers to this man as the decedent is getting me. This is the man that she claimed to love. This is the man who is the decedent because of her choices and her actions. she treated him like a thing. She treated him like a toy, and he broke. She can't even use his name. So the video is reduced to a prop or a thing that the judge is using to get a cut, right? This is a video of a man pleading for his life. This is a video of a man just before he died. And here he's just the decedent. It's not like they represented her for months and months and then discovered they had a conflict of interest. This happens. Attorney 5, conflict, appointed by Judge Court, June 2022 to July 2022. So that was 1 month. Upon our first and only meeting, this attorney expressed his mass confusion. Again, it's mass confusion. He's not confused or wondering. It's mass. In why he was appointed by Judge Wooten as he was leaving for a teaching job out of Orlando within the week. Okay. I learned more from this attorney in 1 meeting regarding my case than all prior combined. It was extremely disheartening that he could not continue representation while isn't that convenient. And set the bar going forward, of course. Especially regarding honesty and respect. The guy she can't have that is far away, abstract, is perfect. Once she gets to know somebody, forget it. Because they're going to make a mistake. Because they're going to fall short of her demands. It is inevitable. No, there is not a man alive who will meet her expectations. Except for the ones who aren't anywhere near her. Like this one. I received only 2 letters from him, 1 introduction, 1 withdrawal. He also did not know where any of my discovery was or notes now 5 attorneys later, not by choice. Attorney 6, conflict. Appointed by the judge, July 2022 to present. Okay, she's doing all this. I'm not reading all this to everybody. You can look at it if you really want to read it. I'm not going through it all. It's all the counting. 43,895. Where is the progress? After 1 entire complete, your entire and complete, unknown. Well, that's nonsense. You don't know everything, nothing, always massive. Everyone, please look on the Orange County, Florida Clerk of the Court's website and see for yourself. Am I looking at it wrong? Reading the contents incorrectly? Hey, she said she doesn't have access to internet. The mass majority of work seems to be from my correspondence. What? If not my letters, there's minutes, some alive, to view from my non-progressive lackluster court dates. Are they supposed to be dazzling? Give them the old razzle dazzle. Stating the same information and same continuances. Okay, that's what it's supposed to state. And of course, none of my comments, concerns, or questions from any. I don't just sit there. Yeah, we know. Edited, like my case. Look, the world is not running how she imagines it ought to be run. And therefore it's wrong. Generally speaking, people are just going along and doing their jobs. Well, she doesn't like it. And because she doesn't like it, now there has to be an accusation. She doesn't like it, so she makes an accusation. You don't conform to her sort of almost fantasy world. You're going to be denigrated or punished in some way. This is the personality we're dealing with. I feel it important also to communicate to everyone so you understand the undertaking it is for an inmate to attend court and why it is so important to me to have progress to report to make the day count. Yeah, I get this. We are woken up at 3 a.m., taken to a holding cell and wait plus or minus 4 hours, then taken to the courthouse and put in another holding cell for however many hours until court time for only a 5 to 10 minute opportunity in front of the judge. Yeah. Everybody who goes to court, that's what happens. Whether you're in custody or not, that 2 minutes or the 5 to 10 minute opportunity, actually 5 to 10 minute is pretty good. If that's the kind of opportunity she's getting, that's actually really good. 5 to 10 minute opportunity in front of the judge. Well, but you know, the judge it's not like it's 5 to 10 minutes to say whatever you want. So when your lawyer says to you, yeah, nothing's going to happen. you don't need to be there, then you don't need to be there. She's making that choice. She has the right to make that choice, but she is making the choice to say anything, if at all. Yeah. Then taken to another holding cell for however long, transported back to another holding cell, wait however long, then taken to another holding cell, then back to our dorm. Yeah, it sucks. Most court dates are court days, spanning between 8 and 14 hours for little to no time to speak. Yeah, that's everybody, right? That's not just her. It's important to me, us, yeah. We matter. Now, what is she doing here? Pay attention to the pronouns now. So now she's speaking on behalf of all the inmates, hence my letters. What will be said for this one, I wonder? Yeah, she wants to know because she really enjoys that we talk about her. She likes it. I'm telling you, she doesn't like what we say, but she wants people to talk about her. Like Lois looking to the skies for Superman. I'm hoping, praying for an attorney to step up and truly represent me with honesty, intensity, understanding, respect, and perspective. It's not a damsel in distress looking for Superman to come from the sky and rescue her. I mean, first of all, the fact is she believes she's in need of someone to swoop in and rescue her, right? But she's not just anybody looking for a rescuer, a superhero. It's Lois and Superman. I mean, what were Lois and Superman to each other? She has this whole world in her head about how things ought to be and who she is and how she should be perceived. And the only place it exists is in her head. And with a fantasy like this, there is no lawyer on the planet who will be good enough for her. You think of the best lawyer that you've ever heard of. Best lawyer of all time, ever, anywhere in the world. She will be dissatisfied with him. Because you know what? That Superman, that's what she wants. And Superman is what she wanted before she ever even went into custody. And nobody can live up to it. What if there is a lawyer who is Superman? What if there is one? And it's the prosecutor. Lucrative defamation and attempted destruction of my character and still intact integrity. Well, that's rich. Clearly. Also, everyone can... You know what? This is making me mad. Like, this really makes me angry. She is accusing the court and the judge. She is accusing men who are not in a position to defend themselves. She is publicly accusing them of horrible things. And you know what? She does not believe that the judge and the lawyers are corrupt. And you know why I know she doesn't believe that? Because if she believed for a minute that the judge was corrupt, she wouldn't dare write it in a letter. She would be too afraid. Clearly, also, everyone can see all of the aforementioned information regarding my attorneys. No, it's not information, it's an allegation. Was not ever a strategy of mine. No, it wasn't. Nor will be. Is it a strategy of the judge and court? The judge and the court are corrupt, and they have some strategy that revolves around her? Why? Even if you were going to believe that they're all corrupt, what motive do they have? She's just another of so many that they have to deal with. How dare she? This is disgusting. The judge and the court, that system is there in great part to actually protect her. And they have been. Because if it was just left up to the police or the public, they would have just thrown her in jail and that would have been the end of it. There would be no trial. There would be no letters. There would be no discussion. There would be no, have her go to another country where she wouldn't get a lawyer even. Obviously, she doesn't think that the court is so corrupt. Because if she believed it was corrupt, she would be so terrified to write this, to put this out publicly, because a corrupt system would punish her. But she knows darn well that they won't, and she knows darn well they can't defend themselves. She's using the public as a tool. She's gathering more flying monkeys for herself. Judge Wooten, will I be included, please, in my upcoming status hearing prior to my PTC? This was already 1 year mark of my attorney 6. Okay. Will I be permitted? I was not attendance from you like all the news channels and professional YouTubers. Oh, blah, blah. Okay. She has stated she wants to attend, and so now she is. She complains about it, but she's allowed to attend. It doesn't matter what you give her. She will complain. I hope I finally see my attorney, whom will, I'm sure, tell me, as you so graciously explained to me in my last PTC I was made a part of, consuming my minute minutes, maybe, of your invaluable time. And that you and he have other clients. Yes, they do. There's actually a whole world of people with really serious concerns. Does she expect everything should revolve around her? This is wild. I am a client. Yes, you are. When she was out of custody, did she wait in line at places, or did she butt in front and demand and say, I'm a customer? And have been for over a year. Yeah. With this attorney and paid tax dollars to utilize all of my available resources. Yes, you're very lucky to live in America, to be an American citizen, including and not limited to a state or government attorney appointed by the court. Yeah, well, you got that. And you will always have clients. Well, that's true. You never know when you may become one yourself. If she was saying to the public, oh, you never know what situation you might find yourself in. Like you could end up needing a lawyer. That's true. But she's not talking to the general public here. She's talking about to the court and lawyers. You'll always have clients. She's talking to Wooten and Bankowitz. Please do not discredit my truth. My truth and the truth are not the same thing. She hasn't actually told us the truth or even her truth. So there's nothing to discredit. As for her allegations about corruption, the judge and the lawyers, I mean, if that's her truth, she's living on another planet. I am who, not what. Yes, she's a human being. That doesn't change anything else, though. Respectful and diligent. No, she's lying in her closing. She is not respectful. And you can all see that for yourselves. None of this is respectful. It's horrible. If she writes any more letters, I might have to come up with a different way to treat them. Just saying the same stuff. It's the same behavior from her over and over and over. Sometimes she even uses exactly the same words. We'll see what happens. Thank you for listening.